So rainy week here in Miami. I don't know when this will be coming out, but
we may not be here after, depending on the track of the storm.
We'll see with the track of the storm. This is probably not newsworthy when this comes out, but a very strong hurricane heading towards South Florida right now. Almost a good time to be up here and recording something like this, and
yeah, could be a last testament of us.
We just got back from our very, very cool rally. I would say, on a personal note, one of the best automotive experiences that I think I've ever had. It felt like being in a video game.
Yeah, I think for us, there's a lot of preparation that goes into these type of events. But at this particular event, we felt like attendees. It was amazing. Just a perfect grouping of cars and people, and just for once everything goes off without a hitch. It was great. It was really one of the most enjoyable things I ever did.
I think it was the team, both the curated team and the execute team did an incredible job. I think it was this perfect balance of just super passionate, just really all different walks of life, different ages, all over the Americas, Mexico, Alaska, former friends, clients, and it was just what a great group. And I would say for me, I think what was so cool is the mixture of roads and the mixture of cars.
I was just going to say, probably some of the best roads I've ever seen or driven on. And we had, like you said, a great mix because we had a technical, windy, low speed drive through like some of the most amazing scenery, and the colors were changing. And then my personal favorite would be the day we drove from Park City to Jackson Hole and driving through those two huge national parks on these windy, open 2-lane roads. We may or may not have gone faster than 70 miles an hour, which is supposed to speed limit. But then again, who was there to see it? It was just an empty road. It was
Sergio,
amazing.
Is the rally video? Is it coming? When is the rally video coming out, or has it come out? Okay, after this. So it's just a preview. You guys will get to see. We may or may not have gotten a few speeding tickets.
If you guys know any good lawyers in the Wyoming area, we're happy to take those suggestions.
Exactly. But it felt, surreal. You're driving along and a yellow Carrera GT passes and then an Enzo, and it was completely insane. What was your favorite car from the rally, and what was the car that left an impact on you in the group?
Well, look, I think selfishly speaking, I'll go to a car I drove, and it was interesting because it was the 50th anniversary Gallardo manual. So when you stack it up in the line of those cars, it's probably the least noticeable, the least of the supercars. You're next to F40s and Carrera GTs and some really cool Diablo variants. But I have to say, getting in the car with the manual transmission, the car was surgical, it was fast, it did everything great. I think at one point we had Sergio was in the car kind of trying to do an interview, and we're going like on the wheel. I'm like, this thing's fantastic. And I actually owned a E-Gear version of that car in 2013, and I loved it, but it just was a completely different experience in the manual. Like I said, so well balanced and so fast.
So good.
So it was a great car.
So good. We had one about 2 years ago, and I rarely drive any inventory, whether we own it, insured, it doesn't matter. And I think I put like 400 miles on the car. I just couldn't stop driving it.
Yeah.
It felt like a GT3 RS, a 997 GT3 RS, but with a Lamborghini badge.
Yeah, and
so good.
I would argue that model of the Gallardo, that later kind of Ferrari model, is better than the Huracan in a lot of ways. I think that becomes like their iconic version of the Gallardo will be that car. Yeah.
I agree. Mm-hmm. It's funny, we've had some really special Gallardos over the years, and everyone always corrects me on the pronunciation of that. And they've always struggled. We've always paid insane amounts for these really special cars, and then we've struggled to sell them sometimes because people are like, oh, that's too much money. It's actually nice to see, I think the guys will bring it up, probably one of the better Gallardos in the world. We had its sister car. I think there was 3 LP 570 Spider Performantes built with a 6-speed manual 2 black cars. We had one of the black cars that we sold. This is probably the better car left. There's a blue car as well that I haven't been seen in a while. But 2,700 miles. It's up to 400,000 on bat. I think we know the former owner or we know the current owner. I don't know who's actually selling it today. But what a car.
Yeah, I think what's happening with the Gallardo variant, the E-Gear had like this honeymoon period where everybody was like, oh, this is cool, paddle shifter.
Yeah.
But truly on that specific model, that car in a manual, beyond the nostalgia of the manual, it's so amazing to drive.
So well balanced.
The V10 is such a well kind of tuned engine, makes power everywhere, makes great sound, and just seems to like go perfectly with the manual.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think while a lot of people are chasing those because they're rare, it's a scarcity thing, I think guys that want to drive are like, man, if they ever experience that car, I need that car in a manual. And we saw that with people that we allowed to drive the 50th. I mean, a couple of our clients came up like, is it available? I want it. This is great. They fall in love. It's just an easy car to fall in love with.
Another car I fell in love with on the rally, and I haven't gotten the time. I mean, I've driven them many times, but to put some miles on, and especially some incredible roads, was a black Carrera GT that we sold a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I had a ball. There is obviously I drove most of the rally. I drove a black Diablo GT. So to get out of the GT and then get into a Carrera GT, I mean, that's a dream. That's a dream, especially to drive them both back to back. I would say they're potentially, to me, the Carrera GT is the pinnacle from Porsche ever. And Diablo GT, you could almost say that could potentially be the pinnacle from Lamborghini as a modern classic. But that was, and I think for a lot of people, that was sort of the exciting part is guys at the last couple of days started to swap cars.
Swapping cars, yeah.
And I've never driven an F40. I've never driven a Murcielago. So to see, just these almost like little kids, excited about, trying things, sharing passion and notes and comparisons.
I think what's great is that you had all these different brands that showed up.
Yes.
From an LFA all the way to these Carrera GTs and F40s, but you got to experience like very different ideologies with the same goal, right? We're going to build a supercar.
Yes.
But the Diablo GT is super raw and visceral, and you drive for 5 hours, you have a smile on your face, but you're exhausted.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas, you have a different smile on your face with the Carrera GT.
Yes.
But it's Porsche ideology. Yes. And then I got a chance to drive the LFA, and I love the car. We sell them, so I want to be careful. I mean, they're great cars. They're amazing.
It's a perfect daily driver.
It was fast. Perfect. It was comfortable, but to me, it was very JDM, which a lot of people love and want. But for me, it was a little kind of disconnected feeling for me. But it was just great to experience that.
Yes.
Like, that was the Japanese ideology. That car is the pinnacle of what it is from that company.
100%.
But I tend to lean towards more the visceral. I want my ears to be bleeding a little bit when I get out of the car, and I want my arms to be hurting. And I want part of the driving experience.
Well, I think what was cool for me about the rally to see what the team put together and clients that came out. I think it's really, and I'll say this, I call it like the end of eras. And it's like the pinnacle to me. All of the cars that were on the rally. I mean, the LFA is the pinnacle from Japan. You have F40, Enzo's the pinnacle of Italian engineering and Italian supercars. And we are now, we didn't have a McLaren P1 or anything like that, or a McLaren F1, maybe for Palm Springs in November next year. But you had all these important cars, and now we're seeing pinnacle supercars that I don't think compare to me. I would rather have, again, we're talking, this is what we do, but I think, with the new hypercars and this next generation coming out, I don't know if they are as exciting as these old cars.
I think what's happening is they're starting to disconnect the cars more and more. Every kind of model iteration becomes a little less about the driver and a little bit more about, how many cup holders, and, we want to make sure that the Bluetooth works great. And that's good when you spend the money, but I believe there's a loss of focus a little bit on the driving experience.
I think, not to interrupt you, but I think that's what after driving a Carrera GT or an F40 and then getting into the LFA is too good.
Yeah.
You know, starts, that is that start of that transition where it's fast, it does everything perfectly, but you know, especially on these roads, you know, the F40, you know, I drove one of them at one point, it feels like it wants to kill you, you know? And that is sort of the allure of these cars or sports cars and exotic cars of a different time. And I agree. I think things are becoming too.
So that's a good question. So let's take a group of these newer cars that are coming out. You have these supercars that are being developed by kind of off-mark companies now, like independent guys that are building crazy wild supercars. You have manufacturers that typically wouldn't build cars on their own, like Pininfarina with the Battista. I think what happens now in the next, let's say 5 years, as those cars begin to cycle into the driver's world, what ends up happening to the experience? Like let's say we put on a rally and we wouldn't. That was all brand new supercars, right?
Never.
Do you think the experience
not happening.
Is the same?
There's
right?
Not enough charging stations either.
Exactly. And I think that's the key here is that the people that participate in these type of rallies, I think what we saw was like truly passionate enthusiasts. Like it didn't matter how long we drove. We drove from Park City to Jackson Hole. It took 6 hours. And I think we could add another 4 hours to the drive.
100%.
We had an optional drive on Sunday.
Everyone
were leaving. Everyone went to the optional, and then a few of them even went on another few hours.
Exactly.
So, and these aren't the most comfortable cars to drive, but they're experiences.
Yes.
So do you think we start to lose a little bit of the enthusiast marriage to the supercar now?
Listen, do you want to drive a Pininfarina Battista over an F40 for 3 hours in the best roads in the world?
No, I mean, the only thing I have to compare to that experience is I actually rented a Plaid, a Tesla Plaid, right? And you get in the car one day and I'm like, oh, this is going to be epic. And I hit the gas and it was like absurd. Like your body doesn't know what to do with the G-forces, but there's no sound, which is really a big deal. Yeah. And then after like 4 hours, I'm like, all right, get me out of this thing. I don't need it anymore. It almost killed me a couple of times because you can't hear the engine when you're coming to a turn. But yeah, I think I need to be connected to a car.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's what the allure of these kind of 90s and mid-2000s cars have done to supercars is that, there's a little bit of a compromise. Where to put my drink? I have no backup camera. Everything that people are used to for the creature comforts, but you get real driving enjoyment. You're driving. You have to 100%. Concentrate. You might be able to talk to your buddy at 180 miles an hour, but you're driving.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I think it'll be most interesting. You have McLaren with the W1, you have Ferrari with the code name the F250, and you have Porsche with the Mission E. And I think the Porsche will be all electric, from my understanding.
And I believe they're delaying release on that, so maybe someone's having second thoughts. I mean, I'm not enough of a Porsche insider to know what's going on.
I think it's interesting because they just showed. So there was actually a 288 GTO rally, similar time that we were doing our rally, and they showed 288 GTO owners the new Ferrari for the first time. So it's 0 to 200 kilometers per hour in just over 5 seconds, similar to the McLaren W1. It is 1,200 horsepower, similar to the McLaren W1. It is a V6 though.
Yeah.
So again, I think the design language is going to be great. There's a front section similar to the new 12-cylinder car. I think the design, aerodynamic, crazy aerodynamics. I think obviously it will be, Ferrari's flagship will always be something incredible, but it'll be interesting to see how they translate the same emotion with a V6. And I think the styling will be in my opinion, much better than the McLaren W1. I don't get that.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, just going to the Ferrari, so the 296 would have been their experiment, right? So
yes.
V6, making incredible horsepower.
Yep.
Anyone that I spoke to that owns those cars said they're incredible. They drive great. But in the resale market, if you're looking at it that way, they're kind of starting to get a little hurt. So I think people have an idea of what they expect from their supercars. And it's not just going to be speed and power. It really is experience. It's auditory.
Yes.
It's the feeling. It's everything that comes with getting in something that sounds great and feels great. And I'm sure they're going to try to engineer some sound into the 250 because they did it on the 296 and it sounds great.
Yeah.
But I do think there's going to be a little bit of pushback. But at the end of the day, it's Ferrari.
It's Ferrari.
And it's numbered, irrelevant. And it's limited.
Yeah.
And they're still going to have 1,000 more guys than there are cars, or maybe 10,000 more guys.
Always.
With McLaren, you know, and from what we're seeing and what's up on the screen for the W1, I just don't know. I think the P1 was groundbreaking, right? Because that was their re-entry into the market. It looked completely different. And then they developed this lineage where every car looked like kind of a brother or a first cousin.
Yeah.
And I feel like the W1 should have been more impactful.
I agree.
I had to look at it. I had to look at it a couple of times and say, wait a minute, is that a new 722? So I think where Ferrari gets it right is their iconic flagship cars. There's no mistaking them. It doesn't look really like the other one. You want me to say, but with the McLaren, I think again a little disconnected with the powertrain. It's fast, but I'm not sure about the styling.
No, I agree, and I think also, to me, like I think it further. You know, we haven't had a P1 yet. A good friend of ours, Faisal, from Saudi, has always told me, we've been back and forth. He's like, brother, you have to get a P1, and we haven't had the chance to.
Didn't we have the green P1?
I don't think so. It was never in inventory. I don't think we bought it or anything like that.
I thought we might have broken it like when we first opened.
It's possible.
Yeah,
and now I don't even remember.
Yeah.
You might be right.
Yeah, I think we did handle that somehow.
And imagine, but we've never owned one, you know, for inventory. Yeah. I think we've passed through one or broken one or something.
And we've come close a couple of times on cars, yeah.
Yes, but I think seeing the new car, it makes me that much more excited. Okay, we need to now, you know, have one in inventory. I think it's the design of the P1 is timeless. I don't know too much about the hybrid system in that car, if how reliable it is or not.
So amongst the three, I think the 918 has turned out to be the best and the most reliable.
Yeah.
You almost never hear of guys having problems.
I've never
with
heard
battery
anybody.
systems.
Yeah.
The Ferraris, unfortunately, a little bit more temperamental. A lot of cars.
A lot more temperamental.
Cars from non-usage.
So politically correct today.
I'm kind of a Ferrari guy, right? Trying to. The McLaren, same thing. You kind of the battery replacement system on that car can be expensive. It's not easy to get parts, but they tend to be pretty robust.
Wasn't there an update or something where you could update your P1 for more horsepower with a better battery? Or something?
There was like an update kit mid model.
Okay.
But then, like I said, they've been pretty robust. You don't hear about a lot of them going bad. I think I came across one or two that had battery issues. I know the replacement protocol was difficult.
Yep.
Took a really long time.
Okay.
And it's expensive, like all of them are.
Yep.
But I think they've kind of got it figured out.
Yeah.
And hopefully Ferrari seems like they're working through their stuff. I mean, with the SF90 also was a little temperamental, but they'll figure it out. It's Ferrari at the end of the day.
I think you talk to, clients. We have a client, and Sergio, feel free to tag his YouTube. But Lewis out of Texas, he has a LaFerrari. He's getting the new supercar. He still talks about how one of his favorite cars is a Countach downdraft and his F40. Because, he's like, it doesn't matter necessarily. Like, I don't need to go that fast, but it feels just fast. So the question, I think, also, and listen, I've driven a LaFerrari, I've driven a Veyron, all these cars with, close to 1,000 horsepower. That's fast. Like, I don't know if you really need, 1,200 horsepower.
There comes a point, right, where you're actually challenging the laws of physics, like how much faster can you accelerate?
100%.
I'm sure someone will answer that question. But and to that point with Lewis, Lewis just bought the yellow F50, right?
Yeah.
And I was there when he said okay, and then it was a celebration. He was excited. We were at Pebble Beach, like, oh my God, So I think that level of excitement is tied to the fact that, man, these things are a lot of fun to drive.
Yes.
I think you took him on a quick test drive, and he was like, oh, this thing's awesome. It sounds amazing. And it's like, I think
we scared each other on that on that test drive.
Yeah.
There's a good some good bloopers that maybe one day we'll share with you guys. I think the coolest thing, going back to horsepower and speed, I would say one of the coolest things on the rally, we had an incredible opportunity at the Refuge Air Ranch.
In Alpine, Wyoming,
And we had this incredible opportunity. I don't think we were supposed to actually drag race.
No.
Everyone did.
We were specifically told not to drag race.
Specifically told not to, and then everyone did. And I would say it was the coolest thing. I mean, one of the cars that really shined on the rally was that Veyron.
Yeah.
Grand Sport Vitesse, when he hunkered down and punched it, you know, even James in his Koenigsegg was like, man, that four-wheel drive, that Bugatti, just, it literally looked like the tires were eating the road, and it just took off like a slingshot.
Yeah, it looked like that car was being filmed at a different speed than the rest of the cars.
I mean, it was completely insane. And I would say also a testament to Bugatti. I mean, that car and the Countach performed miraculously.
Yeah, flawless, right?
Flawlessly.
Yeah.
And we're talking, you know, very consistent, you know, pushing the cars very hard. But it was very cool to see the Bugatti in motion. That
brings
speed.
up another great comparison. So the new Bugattis, as they're evolving, the Chirons are becoming a little bit more technological.
Yes.
Than I wouldn't call the Veyron basic, but you know, the basic entry level Veyron. So what do you think happens in that world now? They're getting more expensive. They're getting a little bit more technology based. Where the Veyron was this like groundbreaking 1,000 horsepower car. Obviously, the design is still just instantly iconic, right?
Yes.
So where do you think that world goes? Do you think Bugatti's starting to move away from it, or do you think they're staying true to the fact that these are driver cars?
I think, you know, Bugatti has to continue to push the envelope. I think and now this is a great comparison to the W1. You know, when you think of the McLaren F1, to me, it was the most groundbreaking car of the 1990s, by far. Top speed, all these different things. When you think of McLaren setting that, and then you think of the W1, I mean, yeah, it's a fast top speed, but it's not a world record. There's not many records being broken by the car at the moment. You know, you never know. Whereas the Veyron, I mean, it shattered every record, whether it was the MSRP, whether it was, you know, the R&D into the car, the top speed, the horsepower, all of these things. You know, I think Bugatti, I really give a lot of credit to Koenigsegg and Bugatti because it feels like they are always both either competing or pushing this constant envelope. So I really respect that because I think they are staying true to the DNA of the brand. I mean, even when you think of the EV110, it was very earth-shattering. I mean, quad turbo, V12, four-wheel drive, carbon monocoque. I mean, all these different things. It does not get the credit.
No, and I think that's going to be one of those cars, the EB110, that, you know, we might end up in an auction somewhere in 5 years and someone just breaks the bank for that car. And I think rightfully so. It has everything needed to be a super iconic collectible investment car. Low production run model, very unique powertrain, record-breaking top speed, acceleration, design. Really iconic design. I mean, it's never been replicated again.
No.
And actually an amazing backstory for the company.
Incredible backstory.
So, and look, I think arguably the reason why Bugatti is where it is today, someone took a chance
100%.
And decided we're going to revive the brand.
But I think what you're saying about Bugatti is you're so in line. The story of Bugatti, their DNA continues to be awesome. Yeah. You know, it's like they get it, you know, like groundbreaking. They have to be groundbreaking. A new car, groundbreaking. I mean, you know, insane. Like what is it actually rev to? It's like this insane number. We have to put it up. Yeah. You know, but again, it's groundbreaking. Where I feel like McLaren, it's like, well, what is their, you know, what is their DNA?
That's how I feel with the new car. McLaren, and obviously the F1 aside. Yes. Everyone's like, man, this is this unbelievably fast car. I'll use the word surgical again. It's a very surgical car. Yep. It's a little bit anemic in feedback and feel, but that's kind of become the identity. All their cars are really fast. Yes. Even their entry-level cars. So I think their focus is like, hey, man, we have one job. Let's get around the track as fast as we can. We're not really concerned about the way it sounds. We're not concerned about even the ergonomics and the interior layout. It's very basic. It's very purposeful. And I think you're starting to see that become their DNA. But that's a very specific group of guys, the guys that want to get around the track faster than anyone else, and they're kind of accomplishing that.
100%. Yeah. I think it's wild to see today. You look at the new Bugatti, they've got it on the screen. It'll be an MSRP just under $5 million. lot of, it's not sold out yet, but I think, you know, the first year.
I think
two,
we know one client that might buy up the rest of them.
Yeah.
we have a client that's a Bugatti.
But imagine, you know, when you go back and you say 2005, 2006, when the Veyron first came out, Carrera GT first came out, Enzo first came out, you know, Enzos were not selling that much more over MSRP. Carrera GTs you couldn't give away. They were selling behind MSRP or loading up on dealer, you know, ship out. Forget showroom floors. They were leaving Carrera GTs outside. There's some funny stories about that. SLRs, McLaren SLR, you couldn't give away. Whereas I think the McLaren W1 is sold out, all 399. Obviously, the Ferrari will be sold out.
Well, it's more than sold out. You've got guys right now that are pissed off.
Do you know how many they've planned to produce?
599.
Okay.
So a little bit, 100 more than the La Ferrari. And they probably, I personally know there's hundreds of really pissed off clients that did not get picked yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the reason for that is if you look at the market in the 90s into the 2000s, you know, the collector investor world was much smaller, less educated. The internet was not teaching them about values.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you have all these different groups now chasing it. Pure enthusiasts, mark loyalists, and then investment-minded, finance-minded guys. All these people chasing now the limited quantity. Then you have the internet, and you have plenty of information, and there's the recipe for all this stuff sells out.
And I think also, I would say the internet, obviously, the big thing to me is seeing all of literally the online auctions and auction reports, or all these different things show people that things are liquid and things do sell and there's buyers. We need to get Gabe on our next podcast because I think it'll be so interesting. You know, he's under 30 years old. He deals with a lot of very young clients. You know, I think he has an interesting take, an interesting look. I mean, his dream car is Murcielago Veyron P1. I might have that right. I might have that wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously he's a younger generation. But what's so interesting to me is, you know, Gabe's under 30. Some of his clients are right around 30 or under 30 or just over 30. And, you know, it feels like there's a younger generation that are chasing older cars.
Yeah, and
which is very rare.
He has a lot to do with it. I mean, you know, like you said, he's a younger guy, but old soul when it comes to the car stuff.
But I think there is a overall generation that is you know, we know a photographer, a young local guy that had an M3 Evo that wanted to daily drive. Yes, he's a big proportion of it, but I think there is a younger generation because of video games and because of these things that it's been built in since, let's say, 1998 or I don't even know when.
Well, didn't we have a client that called us to buy the cars, not the cars he loves, the cars he loved playing in a video game.
Oh, 100%.
And they were hard cars to find.
Yeah, they were hard cars to find. Yeah, we found them.
We did.
Not all, but yeah. So I think there is a video game generation that is inspiring now the certain generation cars, future generation of cars. It'll be interesting to see how that generation adapts to the new cars.
Yeah.
And where they go. I mean, I don't even think it matters. They're all sold out anyways.
I think a great idea is give you and I a break and let Gabe and Steve do the generational talk because they're young guys.
Yes.
You know, we could talk about our experiences, what we drove, what we own, but these are the guys that are carrying
100%.
forward their enthusiasm for stuff that we take for granted because we grew up in the era.
Well, I think it's definitely the video game generation.
Yeah. That'd be really interesting.
It'll be cool to see where that evolves. Any other? What did we forget today? We just went all over the place.
We did go all over the place. I think we should probably mention a little bit about some cars that we sell that aren't part of our typical DNA.
Well,
and I know we spoke about the Carrera GT, and we've sold a lot of them.
Yeah,
but
we sold a lot of them.
When you start to break down into the different levels, and there's a lot of them of the Porsche world, it's an impressive following, as with the Lamborghinis and Ferraris, but it's a little bit of a different following. And this month we got the 73 RS, which
insane
was,
for
it doesn't matter if you're not a Porsche guy or whatever, it was incredible. It I think it's sold. So
Yep.
and we've had a couple of the 993 Turbo S's last year.
Yes.
Super low mileage. So we kind of recognize the really special ones. And then
100%.
we just got the 993 GT2. It's one of 194 GT2s produced. It's the last car, I think, that was ever made.
Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and there were 5 designated as Evo designations that weren't race cars.
Wow.
So it's a really special car. We're going to get it shot. We're going to put it up.
Wow.
I think I mentioned it because I think people expect a certain thing from us. So I just wanted to make sure we
so
mentioned
you know what's funny? That was always a dream for me because there was a great magazine. It was Car Magazine out of the UK. Their cover was a, that's not the car, by the way. That is so far, that's not it.
Yeah.
Sorry guys. There is an incredible magazine comparison, a Diablo SC30 versus a 993 GT car, and it was just, I'll never forget it. As a kid, I had the magazine and I was thinking, wow, that is the perfect garage to have. But yeah, I'm just seeing that car around. It's just absolutely sick. It's stunning.
Yeah, you don't
So
see a
cool.
lot of them, and that's the car. There you go.
What a car.
Yeah, but I'm excited to kind of tell that story and find a home for that car.
Yeah, and we also have what I think is probably one of the coolest, and especially after the rally, seeing it. We have one of the 8 U.S. Bugatti Veyron Supersports arriving, which to me is the pinnacle of the Veyron. It's the pinnacle of Bugatti. Maybe I'm wrong, I'm right, I don't know. And I don't think any of the other owners in the US will sell or will ever sell for a very long time. So it's a very cool opportunity. It's an insane spec. Everyone knows I love black cars. It's black with the chrome polish wheels.
Yeah.
So we'll have that coming in. We have a lot of black cars actually arriving.
Yeah.
360 Challenge Stradale.
Which is an amazing car.
Amazing car.
You know the numbers, but it's
one of 4 black cars with a stripe, yellow caliper. Well, I don't know about the other cars' caliper colors, but it has yellow calipers. But one of 4 black factory stripe with red and black interior. Yep. So super, super cool car. We have the 550 Barchetta, black car.
And that's a great color for that car. We see a lot of red and silver, and I love all Barchettas. I'm a big fan of Barchetta, but you know, we've done a couple of really cool blue cars. We've done a couple of yellow cars this year. But when the black came in, I'm like, man, that's the right color for that car.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it's like a black F50, right? Like, black doesn't look great on everything, but on certain cars, it just works. The black F50 Barchetta,
works.
Really good.
Works. Well, I think I'm excited to see our comparison of this podcast with the video game generation.
I'm excited about that. We got to put that together.
Next podcast.
Yep.
We have a ton more content coming. Thank you again, Herschel, for
Thank you. Thanks.
the banter.
Yep.
It's always fun. And
we don't always agree.
today was easy.
Today was pretty good. We were
was
pretty
a
in line, but
very easy day.
Yeah, it was an easy day. I guess we're preparing for a hurricane, so I want to be nice to you just in case it's the last one.
Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe.